Poem, it's called a collage poem. I wrote down lines that really sang to me or spoke to me. There's several lines in here from the novel called In Wilderness by Diane Thomas. There are a couple of lines from American Horror Story, episode 3, 2016, and from a writer by the name of April Sherry. And it's fun if you ever have an opportunity to just, you see a line or you read something or hear something. Overheard conversation is great too for that. And you think, oh, that's really clever, or that's interesting, or funny, and you jot it down that if you can construct some of those in a poem, you then tell your story, you're telling something that that comes out of constructing those, something that means something to you. Okay, I have one more. It's my last poem. When bocce ball ruled and I fell in love with Dylan. Weekends, uncles in white undershirts, the phrase wife beaters stuck in my head, grates on my now feminist sensibilities. My cousin Jack playing Dylan on a used guitar makes them my first loves, Jack and now Bob. My aunties swarm the kitchen, prepare the feast, all homemade from scratch, and I'm not sure which ingredient is the one called scratch. I love my uncles' loud and happy talk, their cursing behind my mama's back. Jack sings, I ain't gonna work on Maggie's farm no more, and I'm so ready to go wherever that song takes us. I get the uncles another beer, some olives and cheese on this Orange Grove day in Riverside, California. The lawn boasts thick St. Augustine grass. The blades trim short so you can find the white paulina. We watch the bocce balls glide and float. During our first year in Cali, Uncle Johnny taught me to whistle with a blade between my lips. I was 6 then, grown up at 12 now. Dad likes Chesterfield unfiltered, pats my head as Jack sings, well, I see you got your brand new leopard skin pillbox hat. Well, you must tell me, baby, how your head feels under something like that, under your brand new. It's the day before the 4th of July. Tomorrow we will caravan to Ontario, California for the All States Picnic Parade. The street is divided there with a grassy, wide median strip. The best seats in the house, Uncle Johnny says, we'll find the New Yorkers, then have to share tables with Jersey. My uncle snorts and the others roar. They'll be kings tomorrow while slapping the thick backs of the Jersey boys. We've been west 6 years now. Mom says the sunshine doesn't make up for missing family, so Jack sings, she's got everything she needs. She's an artist. She don't look back. She can take the dark out of the nighttime and paint the daytime black. Dad loves SoCal. He's tan, dyed his hair black, wears Bermuda shorts, and takes up golf. This is a galaxy away from the streets of Oneida, New York, from the wrong side of the tracks, a small Italian boy shoveling snow for a nickel. Today I watch my uncles play bocce ball, swap stories, and feel rich. California rich. They say, this is heaven, and an hour's drive to the shore. They call it the beach or the coast out here, I remind them, feeling older than my 12 years. The aunties buzz about outside, the feast ready. More laughter and many more stories. First my uncle's gorge, then nap. I ride my bike around the block 6 times, one for every year I've spent this far from New York. Then sit on the St. Augustine while Jack nods, and I sing. Johnny's in the basement mixing up the medicine. I'm on the pavement thinking about the government. The man in a trench coat, badge off, laid off, says he's got a bad cough, wants to get it paid off. Look out, kid. It's something you did. God knows when, but you're doing it again. You better duck down the alleyways. Looking for a new friend. The man in the coonskin cap and the big pen wants $11 bills, and you only got 10. We both crack up. Jack has educated me on Dylan, I can whistle with a blade of grass. The uncles let me win bocce ball. I speed the bike around the block by myself. It's a beautiful day in Orange Grove, Riverside. The only sure thing I know is that I'm already too grown up for my 12 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that passionate reading, Toni, and thank you for all you've done to encourage younger poets. Jenny Power and Tiffany Burba are up there in Vancouver, and to both Toni and to Christopher, who've done so much for the Vancouver community. I don't know if some of you caught them on the radio, NPR, a couple of weeks ago. They were being interviewed on State of Wonder. You can probably still catch that interview, and you know, they were having other poets come on and read their work in the same spirit that they always have, which is about fostering other poets and not just themselves. It's really a wonderful spirit. So we're very happy to have you here tonight. And it's very funny, I asked Toni earlier, I said, well, you know, what should the order be and who should go last, who's on last? And she said, well, it should be Christopher since he's the big kahuna. So anyway, now I'm going to do it.
I guess she can call that.
She can get away with it, but we know it. Okay. So Christopher Luna has served as Poet Laureate of Clark County, Washington since 2013. He is the first person in Clark County to have held that position. He is the founder of Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic, which he hosts with his wife, Toni Partington. Christopher and Toni founded Printed Matter Vancouver, a small press which also provides manuscript review, editing and writing coaching services. Upcoming publications include Not My President, The Other Side of Violet, and Ghost Town, USA, a full-length revised and expanded edition of his 2008 chapbook of poems and observations about Vancouver, Washington. Let's welcome Christopher Luna.
Hi everybody, I'm so happy to be here and thank you for having us here. We're really proud of what we're doing with Printed Matter Vancouver and really proud of Tiffany's book. So this is exciting for me to be here with the two of them. And we have all of the books that Printed Matter Vancouver has published so far for sale if you're interested. I am from New York originally. I miss the place pretty much every day, and I thought that in honor of Tiffany and her book, I would start with a poem that I wrote while I was there. So this is a time period around 2000, 2001. I was living in Queens and commuting via subway to the Bronx every day. Heresies questioned on the way home. 1. Desire teems neath the restless city, steel exoskeleton beast, custom designed to spit on all crapulous creeds. Then in the tunnel, a hand is raised, an instrument communes with fatigued lips, and an ode to joy, ever so cautiously blown, musical tribute to the reverie of the faithless. One tentative step tempered by a measure of humility, and this is the sound of, and that there's the sound of, everything that resonates is follow you home song. And you may find that they talk too fast, but what harm could come from a principled expansion? Old words mask older tones. You don't let me finish, forget it. Ancient drone too intuitive to be merely inherited. It's in the blood, son, all that's left after the creditors come. Not much, far, far more than enough. Now listen. 2. Documents mass critical, not to eat, not edible. You'll get a paper cut on your lip. Mark of the criminal sends us scruples or hesitation. There's always some clown wants to take the long way. Don't see autumn landscape as impressionistic red, orange, brown. The word red is just that. Don't stop that kid from pissing under the bridge. This is New York City. What would you suggest? Too close, she doesn't like it. Still, my proximity remains unintentional. Just kind of ended up like this. Second nature, dread shake. Kick that bag, 26 world championships. He threw his infant son from the 15th story window. Something happened there, a lesson, a visitation. Were you there? Were you listening? So that's just a little bit of what it feels like to be there in the room. Just a bit. The shits as metaphor for. And it begins with a quote, "I am the interloper, Mary Eliza Crane." A growing concern over the evil that creamed spinach do, punishing the bowels as retribution for British colonialism, like an invader suddenly appearing in the doorway of the domicile. And this is what's known in the biz as a confessional poem. No restraint. Silence is a given, except when it isn't. When all that is built up inside boils at the throat before bursting forth in a torrent of bile and heretofore suppressed rage, and suddenly you have become the beast you aim to tame with all your good sense, your judgment, and your reason, your righteous certainty, and even as you realize what a hypocritical piece of shit this makes you, you think to yourself, doesn't this prove that I was right all along? I just kind of had to get that out of my system. So I have a poem that's going to be in anthology from Great Weather for Media, which is a pretty cool publishing company that's in New York. This was a poem that was based on my observation of getting to see McCoy Tyner here in Portland at Revolution Hall. And the poem is called Poseidon, this Titan of Music. So this poem includes my observations as well as some of the things that McCoy said that night. Young cats lean as far forward as possible for a glimpse of the mighty. There comes a wave, a succession of raindrops, percussive enough to drive away haters, doubters, conversation of the spirit, the nearness of you, the reach and the quietude, the settling, finally transcend flesh and thought chains, sentimental sizzle, a flourish, then it's on. Saddle fractal planaria, cosmological consternation, tongue darts forth to swipe across his bottom lip, serious, syncopated switch, running, floating, diving, no big fish, no small fish, just class, driving the shift, the fisher in our conscious knowledge, serious smile spread, gratitude, check it, hit it, modulate the sensate, look it up later, the clarion call, taken down, reconstituted, taken home. Take care of yourself. You never know when you're going to have to leave this planet. I want to thank you for joining us, for coming out. Hope you enjoy the music. You ready now, bud? Good. Blues on the corner, slam it down, one bottle at a time, doing the hang, nowhere to be, cutting up, laughing, something flashy flip by and you miss it, the brilliance, distant wail evinces a wince, recalling all those you wronged, eventually your girl calls and it's time to go. Gentlest kiss followed by thunderclap. The secret is to be what you observe. Open yourself to her irrationality. Embrace the contrary. Rage at the container. Resist the literal interpretation. For a moment, it looks as if McCoy has forgotten where he is, or is about to leave the stage. He turns uncertainly in place. Then his son leans in to speak to him, and he is persuaded to sit and play one more. I'm not going to give a speech, don't worry. Enjoy life as it comes by you. I want you guys to stay around so your family can see you again. I wish you all good health and happiness. You need that. It made me cry when he said it, and it's making me cry now. In a mellow tone, lift and drop, lift and drop, lift and drop. Digits flicker and flutter, each time with the force of a tsunami, obliterating atoms in increments of nanoseconds. Lean back, lean in, do it again. We're with you. Invest and attest. So I'm going to read a couple poems now about my son, Angelo, 17 years old. Sigil against the spirit death of the psychonaut. Catholic school sense memory, the constant purgatory of fear. Below and beyond the honeycomb tile, the solidity of the world recedes. I am safe, for as long as this strange vision holds. Later, ego death, the twirling of the leaf and the sudden separation of the greens. Doors of perception remain open for the duration. I cannot prove that either of us is here, or that any of this is real, certain that I can't tell you what any of it means. But I know that my love created you, because I was there at the moment that you slipped screaming into this world. This one's called Angelo at 17. There's probably a better title I could come up with for that. That's what I got so far. Angelo at 17. As we walk down Sandy Boulevard toward the Hollywood Theater for Forced to Fight, my son announces that life has no meaning except that which we create. He only shares such thoughts when we are side by side. Upon hearing his revelation, I know that whatever happens, he is going to be just fine. This is called the This Is Extra. The title comes from Peter Matheson. We were turning in a dangerous, rootless, limitless space. In search of real breakfast, I plunged my turbulent and tender hand into the most genital of earthly places. Found nothing in the wound but a cold gust of wind that has slipped through the slack gaps in my soul. At times, in deep space, tensions develop, giving rise to bizarre emotions. The true villain of the misdeed, who is the priest and the initiate, with his bags full of havoc, human wreckage becomes an aesthetic of collapse, of things not coming together. If you're open to infinity, you have a chance to regenerate yourself, and once all these circles, these circular temples regenerate themselves, they're the same old world, but with a fresh new morning exhalation. The impermeable becomes permeable. Molecules obey your thoughts. You become the weather. If you're still intact, if you're still viable, it means you've been growing somehow. That all of the impressions of life have landed and stuck somewhere. You've been able to digest them and transform them into something that you can work with and live with and carry with you. It can't be diminished because it's supreme. The only thing is, if you don't listen to it enough, you don't hear it enough. It's when you kind of quiet down, slow things down, everything sort of settles back inside and sort of resettles. Then maybe you can hear something. Let's make a poem with blood. And I think that soon I will know all this very precisely. Yes, very precisely. So some of the people that I borrowed from and who appear in that poem: Patti Smith, Stanley Kunitz, Antonin Artaud, Ken Jacobs talking about Jack Smith, Matthew Shipp, Carlos Santana, Natalie Diaz, and Bill Murray. Goodbye, stranger. It's been nice. Hope you found your paradise. Supertramp. One of the last times I ever saw Rob, he gave me a ride to Ridge so that I could shoot my self-portrait film. We put a baseball cap and glasses on my sister Vicky, and she looked exactly like my younger self. This allowed me to meet myself as a child on the corner of Randall Road and Rustic Cave. Rob drove us as I pointed the Bolex out the window to catch the trees whizzing by right where TJ was hit by a truck. In junior high, Rob and I had many things in common: horror movies, rock and roll, the complete indifference of the female population. We immersed ourselves in fantasy as a way to escape our loneliness and became the best of friends. I hadn't noticed the Confederate flag over the mantelpiece, the Mammy cookie jar. It would be some time before I understood. Holiday break, I accompanied Rob and his mother to church. Later in the car, I asked them how they could be Christians and also approve of the dropping of bombs in Iraq. Later, Rob joined the Young Republicans, began wearing a shirt and tie, and proudly proclaimed himself to be a fascist. He explained that his shoulder-length hair signified his independence. I came to realize that there were only two subjects left that were safe to talk about: Taco Bell and horror movies. Haven't seen Rob for a number of years now. He's living in Manassas, Virginia, waiting for the South to rise again. Sometimes I miss him. Occasionally he visits my dreams. In a sense, I feel I have failed, but there's simply nothing left to say. Remember the evening we all spent at Sue's, saying goodbye as several of us were heading off to college. Rob and I took one of our long walks, cried a lot. Many promises were exchanged, but I think we all knew that it would never be quite the same again. It never was. So I want to say thank you to Leah for hosting this for 7 years. As a person that hosts an event, I know that it takes a lot of time and energy to do that. I really appreciate it. And Jackie for opening this space to all these poets all this time. We don't get quite as much support from the community as we could, from the culture as we could, we poets, so that's great that you would do that. I want to also invite everybody to join us at the next Ghost Town Poetry Open Mic, which will happen on September 14th. There are some flyers over there with the books. Our guest is going to be Coleman Stevenson, who is a really great Portland writer who I'm excited to present. And I want to finish up my portion of this with 2 recent poems in what turns out to be a series. I didn't know it was going to be a series when I started, but it looks like it's going to have to be a series now. The first one is called The Apocalypse We Were Promised. Record heat, reality denied. GOP attempts again and again and again to strip health care from millions. Haves laugh and count their blood-stained cash. When the streets run red, they will retreat into temperature-controlled bunkers. They will laugh, gorge themselves as we burn, warring over diminishing resources, fight over dwindling food and water. Many will suffer and die. No way of knowing how we'll fare, but shit is about to get real. We, the manufacturers of our own destruction, hold on tight, share, love. So this last one actually woke me up this morning. I don't get poems from dreams. I don't get lines of poetry from dreams. I don't see words in my dreams, but there were so many words kind of roiling around in my head that they sort of forced me awake and forced this into being, for what it's worth. This one's called The Revolution We Were Promised. A black man is beat by white men wielding poles in a parking garage in Charlottesville. If you voted Republican, you voted for this. If you voted Republican, you were responsible for this. American politics circa 2016-2017. Narcissistic madman colludes with Russia to steal the election he lost by nearly 3 million votes and immediately begins dismantling all that is good about the country. Boasts about grabbing women by the pussy, expresses interest in fucking his daughter. On his phone constantly, tweeting reactionary bile in response to what he sees on TV. Racist lowlifes encouraged by the GOP to travel to campuses and parks in liberal strongholds armed with bats, flying swastika flags. Seas of white frat boys waving Walmart tiki torches, possessed by AM radio-inspired hatred. Thug-in-Chief won't denounce it. White nationalists, Nazis, and white supremacists are his base. Thug-in-Chief thinks provoking nuclear war is leadership. Madmen with no ideology other than attaining wealth, no agenda other than obliteration. Easy to choose sides while watching old footage of piles of bodies in concentration camps or cops beating Negroes in Alabama. Easy to tell yourself, of course you would have done something. The temperature rises to dangerous levels in defiance of willfully ignorant climate change deniers. Everyday activities are canceled, and citizens are encouraged to stay inside. When the maggots of manifest destiny swarm into your town, will you meet them in the town square, prepared to defend your freedom? Or will you hide in the dark, watching clips of the carnage on your gleaming screen, hoping they won't find their way to your door? Thank you. I'm sorry about the water I spilled.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much for bringing the spirit of the beats here tonight. I love the rhythm of Christopher's poetry. It's really wonderful. So let's take a little break for about 10 minutes, 15 or so. Buy books, cards, and I think I forgot to mention, if you want to read at the open mic, sign up on the paper right there. So go out on the street, relax, and see you back in about 10 minutes. Thank you.